If you don't want to work, you're the one that decided you don't want health care.
That was Republican Senator Rick Scott, who, of all people, was opining on Fox News about who does and does not deserve or even really want health care for themselves. Before we dive in, let's listen to the full clip.
Of course, one of the sticking points is this business about paying able-bodied 30-year-old men without dependents welfare with no work requirement. Why do some of your colleagues have a problem with that?
It doesn't make sense to me. Number one is if you don't want to work, you're the one that decided you don't want health care.
Right.
That's number one. Number two, Medicaid is supposed to be for children that don't have health care and people with chronic illness. I remember when my brother couldn't get health care, I grew up in public housing. Today, that child might not get it because of what these states are doing. They get more money to take care of able-bodied adults.
So there's a lot wrong with what he said. He's clearly trying to mislead people, and he is desperately trying to defend the fact that Republicans just advanced Trump's spending bill that includes steep cuts to Medicaid.
It is large, it is comprehensive, and it deals with reconciling the budget in a way that will be fiscally responsible.
But changes to Medicaid and federal food programs are drawing sharp criticism from Democrats.
These devastating cuts will make Americans, particularly children, sicker, hungrier, and poorer.
The Congressional Budget Office estimates the health provisions would save around $700 billion, but leave more than 8 million Americans uninsured.
We now know that the Republicans lied when they said that they weren't going to cut Medicaid.
We're not cutting Medicaid.
Even some Republicans, like Missouri Senator Josh Hawley, are raising concerns about health care cuts.
That's going to be a big problem in my state. We've already lost a lot of rural hospitals in Missouri. I don't want to see any more rural hospitals go out of business.
So to pay for Trump's tax cuts, Republicans have been trying to find where they can cut $880 billion from the federal budget. Much of that money is coming from Medicaid, but Republicans would also like for states to require childless adults aged 19 to 64 to work, with some exemptions. Overall, the provisions demanded by Republicans in regards to health care would mean that by 2034, 10.3 million people will lose Medicaid coverage and 7.6 million people will go uninsured. Republicans argue that while many people, yes, would lose health coverage, the people who really deserve it, the people that programs like Medicaid originally intended to serve, would still be taken care of. Their bill simply targets able-bodied adults who should be working anyway and immigrants who are here illegally. The term able-bodied is a little problematic, though. The process to be declared disabled in this country is often convoluted, costly, and time-consuming, made all the more difficult by the fact that the people applying for disability are presumably disabled in some way, so Republicans would have to address that whole process. Also, plenty of people in this country are working and they still don't have access to health care through their jobs. Why do you think so many companies are hiring contractors instead of employees these days? Republicans would have to address both that business practice and those uninsured workers, and there is a lot of them, nearly 60 million of them according to McKinsey, or roughly 36% of the workforce. While you can argue that the downsides of contract work, such as no employer-provided health care, no parental leave, no paid leave of any kind, etc., are just part of the gig, the truth is that many companies just don't hire salaried workers anymore, or at least not as much as they once did. Also, plenty of people work contract jobs while searching for salaried positions with typical job securities and benefits because they need money, and contract jobs are all people can find in the meantime. And how about all of those able-bodied people who would love to work, but thanks to a defunct business culture, they can't find work? Or how about all the people who were recently laid off from their jobs? For example, the 121,000 plus people that DOJ just laid off. And it's not just government workers who are falling victim to layoffs. People working in tech, which was not long ago considered to be a relatively safe, dependable industry to work in, has seen 500,000 layoffs since 2022. The Wall Street Journal just published an article talking about the Great Hesitation, a phenomenon that has resulted in a hiring process that is 2 or 3 times longer than it was a year ago. And let's be honest, a year ago, the hiring process was still way too long for most people who are usually unemployed and scraping by while waiting for companies to call them back with a job offer. That is, assuming the companies haven't just ghosted their applicants. The article says those who have jobs are staying put, trying to figure out how they can stay relevant with the pivot to artificial intelligence and continued threat of layoffs. Those job hunting are finding recruiters insisting salary expectations be divulged in the first phone call, job postings pulled at the last minute, and bots ruling out their resume before it lands in front of a human. Companies are prolonging their hiring processes, leveraging contract workers, or holding out for candidates who check every single box and then some. It kind of makes sense as to why people are turning to contract positions while on their job search, or really settling for contracts, because who can afford to spend months, if not years, of their lives searching for a job these days? It's not an unusual circumstance for many people to find themselves in. And layoffs have hit the healthcare industry itself, another industry that's been historically pretty stable as far as employment is concerned. Republicans seem to be under the impression that nobody wants to work anymore, which is dumb. People have been saying that for decades. It's not any more true now than it was before. People are trying to work. We are pivoting within our industries to maintain relevance and stay ahead of the AI curve, which is coming for all of us. It doesn't matter what industry you're in. We're learning skills outside of our industries just to diversify our skill sets. Most of us have backup plans and side hustles. Our degrees are either obsolete or irrelevant to our current careers. People are trying to work. We are desperate to work. But Republicans want you to believe that people just want things handed to them. We get how the system works. We pay taxes in exchange for certain guarantees and protections and programs from the federal government. Of course, in order to pay taxes, we need to earn money with which to pay the taxes. We're doing our best out here, but it's clear that our government isn't even interested in pretending to hold up their end of the bargain. This is not a merit-based system. Good people, whatever good even means in the eyes of the government, are not the only ones who deserve to have health care. This is a human right, and what Republicans are doing right now is inhumane. If the system is broken, then fine, fix it, but don't pretend that there's no other way than what they're trying to do, and don't pretend that this isn't just so the rich can get another tax cut. By the way, before I go, back in 1997, Rick Scott resigned under pressure from the hospital company he was running, Columbia HCA. The company was involved in a billing scheme in which it overcharged the federal government for Medicare and Medicaid. The company incurred a $1.7 billion fine, and that is the guy who now wants to talk to you on Fox News about who does and doesn't deserve health care in this country.
It is one of the biggest criminal investigations of an American corporation ever.
We're executing a search warrant.
In the past few months, hundreds of federal agents have raided at least 70 of Columbia's hospitals and offices in 7 states.
Rick Scott promised explosive growth to shareholders, but to insiders, Rick Scott could be ruthless.
They seem to care more about profits than medicine.
Good old-fashioned fraud, lying for money.
Over the last decade, Columbia has made its stockholders and executives rich.
The company cheated the Medicare program, and they knew what they were doing.
Regularly filing false Medicare reports and overcharging the government.
Charging the government for everything from Kentucky Derby tickets to country club memberships.
False claims submitted to the government year after year over the course of hundreds of hospitals. Their promotions depended on it. Their bonuses depended on it.
For-profit hospital chain HCA, formerly called Columbia HCA, will plead guilty to criminal conduct.
$745 million to settle charges of fraud in Medicare billing.
Rick Scott and 5 other top corporate executives have resigned, and federal investigators told ABC News today that Scott is now considered a prime target of the investigation.
All right, that's it for me. If you got anything out of this, please like the video and subscribe to the channel for more. Thanks.